follow this blog post from 2012 about how to create a XAF application from scratch. Of course, we are used to the wizard, we are used to the templates, but I think that architecture-wise, it makes a lot of sense to at least once in your lifetime do a XAF app from scratch and see all the steps that are involved. And then you see there are nothing else than regular .NET apps. So let's follow these steps live. Let's see how that goes, and then we'll go from there. So, Jose, let's start with creating a new project. And we'll do a completely new project, meaning that it will be an empty project. So we're gonna call it my XAF application or my XAF app, however we want, like completely blank. We're gonna click create. Then we're going to take this app and we're gonna make it a Windows application. And if we follow the blog post, it will ask us to actually add reference to DevExpress Express app. Look at this 12.1 and DLLs and Express app Win, Express app XPO system, and so on. So we're gonna do a better thing. We're going to, and let's add the nugget feed. We're gonna select the DevExpress Express app .win.org. So this one, if we install it, you will see that it will have everything we need to build a XAF app reference-wise. So you see they have the Express data, you have charts, you have all the DLLs that we need, Express app, and also you have the module. So just with that one, you should have everything you need. If you don't want to, of course, overwhelm your application with a lot of references that you might not use, you can just add the ones that you did right now that are Express app, Win, and so on. Good thing and interesting enough, in this DevExpress, let's see if we see it here, already come with the XPO version, Hoche. So the Win all doesn't have Entity Framework. So I will approve of that. All right, you see, it's adding all those libraries. Let's give it a second. And now let's add a program CS. New class. Program.cs. And let's come back here and we are our main method. That's where we want to start coding our application. And actually, let's copy even the class declaration. So here we go. We got our first steps. Now, after we do this, one thing that we need to add is our XAF application that inherits from the Wing application. So the class that comes from the DevExpress app DLL, and that's the one who comes with a lot of methods already that and a lot of functionality that that you need to get your application running. And let's add a new class. And let's copy this code and let's review. So basically right here, let's add the reference to that we need. And we need another one, system data, and that's it. So if you see here, we are inheriting from Wing application and we're creating our default object space provider that it will be the XPO object space provider, and we're handling the data version mismatch event. So it creates the database and updates the database and so on. So with that change, let's go to our main method and let's actually instantiate. Let's come here and instantiate our name of the application or connection string, and let's start let me just grab our local DB server, paste it here. So without doing anything else, we should be able to run it and have a blank app starting to take place. So this is a good thing because that way you know, hey, without designers, how to create a controller, how to create a module, how to add a module to the application, how the application is getting instantiated. So let's give it a second. It should be creating the database. All right. You see here, completely blank app, but we're already starting to get something. You have even the model already. Here you go. Now, let's stop here and let's go to the next step. So for now, we don't have nothing else. We don't have a business object or anything, but we can start adding more modules. So what does that mean? Let's add an extra project. Same thing, empty project. And we're gonna call it my XAF module. And we're gonna make it a class library. And we can put assembly information 10. So I want to mention this assembly version. We have to put the wildcard if we want to like get automatically creation of the new fields, new class, and everything so on that we need in our database. Because what our let me actually fix this. I don't like to. Let's make the file to match the type. All right. So to get here, it will actually check the assembly number and see that, okay, it doesn't match, so we need to run the updater and so on. So we already have our module. Now let's create a module class. Another class. And let's create a module class that inherits from module base. Right. So we haven't added any Nugget package to the module class, to the module class library. So we need to come here. And right here, we're not gonna add the win all because that will be just like the agnostic project. So we're gonna add just the Dev Express app. Right. And we should also add the persistent implementation for XPO because we're gonna create. Right. Now, if we go to model base, we should be able to add our reference. Now, let's change also the name type to my file to my type. All right. Now we should add a reference to that project. And we can actually come here to the program. And before the startup, we're gonna add our new module that we just created. So let's do that right now. All right. Again, without doing anything else, if we load, okay, let me see, we have an error. Okay, so let's say, and actually I'm gonna do it. Let's just come here, assembly information, let's make this 0 and leave it like that. That should compile and let's run. And then we will fix that. So now If we go to tools now, edit model, and we go to loaded models, you see that right here we have our module that we just created from the my XAF module, the version number, and we see that we have the system module and the system with the first module that comes from the Wing application that we inherit, or my XAF application class. So we are already seeing that we are loading the modules that we just created. Of course, there is no mod functionality there, but that's what everything else comes in place. So let's now add a business class. Let's add, and actually let's keep doing the same thing, a class. And this will be public, set contact, heading from base object, and let's ask course rush to generate our constructor, and let's also create a name property and an email property. Right? Let's rename file to message type. All right. So now, if we run it now, it should fail. It should give us an error about that actually the contact is not even here. So I think that let's put the file property, the file class option, and let's run it. So if you see, it's telling me, hey, the contact table is not created. So we're gonna see it here in the model, but if we click on it, say, hey, your schema needs to be updated. So if we go actually to our instance, and we should find, see, fresh, my XAF application only have module info and XP object type. It doesn't have the contacts table. So for that one is where we were mentioning. If we actually come to our XAF application, put a breakpoint here on the updater, run again. It's not even going through that one. So if we go to our XAF module and then change to our wildcard, so actually increment, and it detect. But now if we compile, because in the new version of Visual Studio and so on, it gives you this error about determinism. What we have to do is just basically load the project, go to deterministic, make it false. Reload. And now, if we compile this one, that should be good to go. If we run it, it should stop in the updater. It should create my table. And I should be able to actually create a new contact name and email and so on. So we are seeing that the XAF app is starting to actually take shape. So let's actually add an updater. Let's keep going. Right here, we create a class. We can actually put it, let's make it prettier, an image name. Tag image name. And let's move to an updater to supply initial data. So let's take this code and we can on templates today, everything will be class by class. We're gonna come here. Basically, we're inheriting from the model updater, and in the override the after update schema, and we know this by hand. We just create new objects. I want to mention that I type to my file and always right. So I want to mention that by reflection, it gets pick up the updater and is able to run it. So if we run our application right now, stopping the updater, and we should have two records, Jane Smith and John Smith with the two emails. Let's continue, and then let's add a new module. Let's add reporting. So, of course, you can always override the get module updaters, and you pass your updaters manually. If not, it's picking it up by reflection. So this is one that I like a lot because we haven't done nothing else, and because we are already have our reporting DLLs in place, we can just come to our program file. We can add a new module, and in this case, we're gonna do the report version 2. And if we run it now, voila, we should, let me take this breakpoint that we have our reports navigation, and that we can actually start and create a report on the contacts and so on. So right here, we create a report with those two contacts and so on in the business object that we have. So we're starting to add new functionality one by one. Now, what else are we missing? So I think that we're missing security. So let's do active directory. That will be the faster one. So 2 lines. Let's add here. Let's go to our program, and after, let's add 2 new lines. That it will be Active Directory authentication, and right here it will create the user automatically. And right here, of course, because this is a really old post from 2012, we need to change to permission policy user. User, and right here, we're gonna change to permission policy role. Now, just 2 lines. And if we run our app, so we're not seeing anything right now, but you see that it's authenticated with the user of my computer. And why we're not seeing anything? Because we have not created a role. So let's get to that. Let's go to, actually, let me bring this here. So I just copy that. Give me a second. Right. I'm just going to add on the updater how to create the default role, the admin role that is basically creating the permission policy role and adding the administrative to true. So just data, we're gonna add this here. Just okay, find if there is a role administrator. Of course, if we go to the database and go and check my XAF app, we will have in user the user that we just saw in our app, but if we go to role, we have nothing. So let's fix that. Let's create a role that it will be administrator. And if we run this now, it still is not going to show anything because the role is not associated with the user, but we can fix it real quick. So we now go to our table. We have our permission role administrator created. And then let's go to our many-to-many table. And let's this here so I have more space. I'm going to take this same ID so we don't. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna select my role. I only have one role. I'm gonna select my user. I'm gonna take one ID. I'm gonna change something. And basically that should be, if I run it again, my user now have the administrator role. So it should be able to see everything. That's it. And you have already user role authentication with just 2 lines and just a record on the database. Let me continue. So, Jose, you seeing that right now 2 lines, you already have active directory authentication, you already have reports, you already add a module, you already have the model. So what are we missing here? I think that the only thing that we should miss is let's add a new item that is a text file for our model, and let's call it our model. I have to make sure that I get this right. Model right here, model.designeddiff.summary. So let's come back here, model design. Let's just designed diff. Diff.summary. Let me just double check model.designer diff. 2F and an S. Right, if I did it correctly, it's gonna pick it up. We're gonna open with a XML text editor, and we're going to add just the application node. All right. So one thing that we need is to make it embedded resources. So if not, the changes are not gonna be applied. But just with that one, we should be able to open it and modify our model exactly as we are used to. If we want to do it in our application project, instead of on the agnostic module, it's the same. The difference is the name is just model.summary. But that's it. You have our complete model here. So one last thing should be create a controller. I think that we didn't do that, but we can add it here. You can actually, we are not using templates either. So let's add a new class. Un object view controller for list view, for contacts. We're going to basically send an email based on your current email application that you have. So the name type file to match type. I'm always getting those mixed up, and we can run. All right, you can see that right now we have this new send message action. So the controller is taking place where you click on it and it will try to open whatever you have in your computer and the default app. So we created actions, controller, model, security, added modules, added the application, added the program. So even the main method, the nugget. So everything completely from scratch. What do you think, Coach?
Well, I was thinking like we should have done this like 15 years ago.
I agree.
Yeah, this video. I mean, it will clarify a lot of things for a lot of people that there is this like misconception that SAF applications are some type of black box inside of .NET, but they are just normal .NET applications. But sometimes it's hard to see when you see the templates and you see all the files. I guess it's overwhelming, especially because most people come from, I mean, at one moment, most people came from Windows Forms and they were used to one single project. So imagine that before it were like 5 projects when you do web forms and Windows forms. And then you see a lot of files. So it looks like overwhelming. But right now, step by step, it's so easy to understand which are the parts of SAF actually, and which are the main parts of SAF.
And one thing that I want to mention here, Oche, we used to do this with Prism. When we were doing Summer Informed with Prism, we used to take a blank project, add all the Prism libraries, create the container, do all the steps. So it makes sense because it gives you a bigger picture of what you are creating and all the architecture and all the steps related. If you see right here, we have all the basic steps. We have the authentication, the modules, the updater, the controllers, the action, and the model, and the provider for XPO for the database. So again, if you guys have any comment, we will do exactly the same for Blazor later on, but we wanted to start with the moving forward because I think that it is a good place to see everything from scratch to a XAF app already working.